Lock it in.
I'll call the meeting to order for the Sierra Vista work session for 10 May 2022. Tonight we'll start with the presentation, discussion of the May 12th, 2020 council meeting. And of course, we'll open the meeting as we usually do with the roll call, invocation, and pledge of allegiance. That'll be the acceptance of the agenda. On item number 1, is there anything on the agenda that needs additions, corrections, questions on the agenda itself? Okay. We next go to the city manager's report. Mr. Patuchik, is there anything you want to highlight tonight?
Yeah, a couple things, and I'll go over them in more depth, obviously. Thursday, as you're aware, we sent out a press release regarding some consolidation of some routes on Vista Transit due to the loss of some drivers here recently, and so we're certainly trying to get those hired, but that's been a challenge, and we've had to consolidate some routes. So we have the particulars in the press release. Sharon can probably address those in more specifics if you care to do that. But as soon as we get the staffing shortages worked out, we'll get back to normal operations. And then we'll have a JPA board meeting Thursday prior to the council meeting of CCOM. And the good news there is, thanks to the hard work of the sheriff and his relationship with the governor's office, they're bringing substantial grant funds to CCOM, and the result of that will be the frail of costs related to our Motorola system, which is our largest expense item in that budget through 2029. So you're actually going to see a reduction in the CCOM budget of a couple $100,000. So the power of working together as a regional group here is really helping us out. So that's a good thing. Of course, we're still dealing with staffing issues at CCOM as well. So I'm sure that will be discussed at the meeting. So those will be the primary things, Mr. Mayor.
And Sharon, did you want to make a comment about the staffing issue with the drivers?
Yeah, just so Mayor and Council is aware, we did lose 2 drivers, 2 full-time. That's about a third of our full-time staff, and that's why, and we lost them within 2 weeks of each other unexpectedly. So that was the reason for this. We are trying to keep it as temporary as possible. The position's currently out there being advertised. So we remain optimistic that we'll be able to get those positions filled, and as soon as we get some people in the door, get them trained, we'll start scaling back up again. First priority will be to bring the Brown route back because that is not currently being serviced, and then after that we would reduce the consolidation of the green and orange routes. So get rid of the yellow route and go back to green and orange.
Yeah. And that's one of the issues I talked to other mayors that they're having is when they have key positions where they have to have, in this case, a commercial driver's license. It's difficult to get people to apply right now because there's some people who decide they can retire or go do something else, and getting somebody through that process, whether you're a truck driver or a bus driver, doesn't make any difference. It takes some time and effort. So
Yeah, there's a national shortage of CDLs.
Yep.
So.
And that's a good point, Mr. Mayor. And this position tends to be extra challenging because it requires an additional endorsement. Beside the CDL, it requires a passenger endorsement with the CDL. So our refuse drivers, for example, could not drive a bus route unless they have a passenger endorsement. There is no other section of Public Works.
But that's one of the things that we need to look at in the future to prevent this, though, is we know we have more than one CDL driver that's working for us. And if there can be some cross-training so that if we can take other people from your department temporarily and run a bus route or whatever, we need to look and see how feasible that is, and if possible, get people cross-trained. So
yeah, absolutely, sir. I believe we have one that has a passenger endorsement, but then refuse is also short-staffed right now due to the nationwide CDL shortage.
Yeah. Okay. So, any other questions on city manager's report? Okay. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Mr. Patucci. Next item is the item number 2, consent agenda items. The first is the meeting minutes of April 28th, 2022. Any comments or corrections or discussion on that one? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to 2.2, discussion of possible action and resolution of pre-annexation agreement. And Matt, would you brief us on this?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of council, good afternoon. The agreement before you pertains to an empty lot on the northwest corner of Theater Drive and North 6th Street, as shown on the location map before you. The property is owned by the Cochise College Foundation and is the location for their next house to be constructed by their residential construction program students in the upcoming school year. The pre-annexation agreement, as you're aware, is a predicate to the owner connecting to the city sewer, which is the main motivation of this pre-annexation agreement. The property is planned and zoned for residential use. There are no adverse impacts. As you can see, Mr. Mayor, the subject property is not contiguous to the city limits and is not currently eligible for annexation.
Okay.
With that, I'll answer any questions.
My concern is Theater Drive. That's a half a block east of where it turns south and kind of narrows.
Yes, sir.
And so that's a substandard width of a street too. So the question is, in my mind, is where are they going to build the house? They're going to build a house on the northern part of the property or the southern part of the property? Because eventually, I would like to see as we gain other houses in there, that road will be a normal width without a bend in it, if possible. But that's future planning. So I think we probably just need to talk to the college and see what they can do about site plan for that house.
I know there's for 3 members up here that can speak to this. Theater Drive is in the planning stages right now, and we're having a big meeting on that particular project on Friday, beginning at 9 a.m. Now, I see this, and I have the same concerns that you do, because I think this project at the longest would be done in 2026. Was that it? As I remember?
But the question really is how much of the northerly movement on that how much from the current right-of-way they're going to move north.
Absolutely.
And I don't think there's a whole lot of room there, if I remember the project was originally laid out by the MPO.
Yeah.
Are they building the same size homes that they built on North 2nd?
It'll be similar.
Right, and I mean, while it looks like a small parcel based on the scale, it is 7,400 square feet and can accommodate the size home that they've typically built in the past. I have a feeling it'll be oriented towards North 6th Street, not Theater Drive. And so the Theater Drive frontage will serve as a functional side yard for that project. So there's sufficient width for them to build the home. I'm not anticipating the need for acquiring additional right-of-way for Theater Drive. We're going to try to work within the existing boundaries of the right-of-way. I believe in developing the alternative cross-sections. The first meeting is Friday, where we're going to start that conversation, see where it leads over the summer. But I believe there is adequate room within the current limits of the right-of-way to accomplish our design objectives.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Matt? None. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Matt, how many surrounding houses in that area? It was kind of, you had city, county. How many surrounding houses near that are annexed? Is it split like this is on the map you gave us? Where everything?
Remember, Benning, the red dashed line represents the city limit boundary. This will be our 22nd pre-annexation agreement.
Okay.
That's come before you. I sat down with Blake Fisher this morning to begin strategizing the boundaries of a future petition effort later this summer, and we'll have more information on that in the meetings to come.
Yes, ma'am.
Is Blake had put together, I think it was Blake, a GIS map?
Yes.
Is he still updating that for us?
Yes,
to
and
see,
that's what I
where
was
they-
looking at with him this morning.
Yeah, okay.
It's looking pretty promising, but I'd rather save specifics for a future meeting.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you, Matt. The next item is a public hearing item, which includes the liquor license. Ms. Adams, you want to enlighten us, please?
Mayor Mueller, members of council, the application was submitted by Zamir Malal on behalf of Adanac LLC for the transfer of a Series 6, which is a full bar liquor license from the International Karaoke Bar to 964 East Fry Boulevard. Their intention is to open a bar probably later this year, towards the end of the year. They're doing tenant improvements, is my understanding, and the name of the business will be called Tell Mama. The police department has done their background check and has no objection to this license moving forward, and the notice of the public hearing has been posted on the premise and will have been posted the required amount of time, and no comments. I take that back. We have received a comment to the con of this application. Another tenant in the mall where this is going to be located also runs a alcohol establishment and is not in favor of this. However, the general public has not commented on this application.
Maybe the name should be Don't Tell Mama.
There you go.
Okay. Any other questions or discussions on the liquor license?
That means,
is IK
was that
closing?
IK gonna close, or they're gonna just not have?
Yeah, that's.
What's that?
So what happens to international karaoke now?
It's my understanding they're closing, or are closed already.
Okay.
All right, then we'll move on. Item number 4. Again, Mrs. Adams, services for elections with Cochise County.
Mayor Mueller, members of council, this is a biannual item that comes up every election year. As you are aware, we contract with Cochise County Election Services and the Recorder's Office to do all of the physical election day and early voting activities on our behalf. So we, every 2 years, do an agreement with them to just say that they will give us these services and we will pay them. The standard cost is based on registered voters in the city, which we currently have 27,965. They charge 75 cents per, which that goes right up to about $21,000. We are budgeting $30,000 in our budget for election services because at this point in time, we don't know whether we will have any additional costs, whether it be information pamphlets, whether someone comes up with an initiative, a referendum. So you got to kind of budget for that. But the Cochise County bill will be somewhere between $21,000 and $25,000 for the election in November.
Questions for Mrs. Adams? Yes, sir.
Is this just for the general election, or would we
That's,
pay
yeah,
for
this is
primary
just the
also?
election.
We
We
don't
do
have the
not have
primary.
anything on the primary ballot this year.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Mrs. Adams.
Mayor, I have a question.
Okay.
It says on the memo, Jill, that it's a 25,000 budget appropriation, but it's 30?
Well, I budgeted 30. I'm guessing that it's gonna end up being around 25 because the recorder office sometimes, if there's any counts that have to be done or checks or anything like that, they will charge us for that. So I'm anticipating it will be 25 or less, but I always budget a little extra for the unexpected because the bill still comes, even if it's
Okay.
unexpected.
And I don't see a number in the actual resolution, so, okay, thank you.
Okay. Item number 5 is the discussion on the acceptance of a grant for CCOM. Ms. Papa Trayvon. How are you today?
I'm doing well, how are you?
Good.
Is it okay if I stand over here, or do you need me to stand?
Well, you actually need to stand on the mic because we're being broadcast.
Yeah, I'm not that tall.
You
Oh,
don't
you
know
can-
where.
there's a button to lower the whole thing for you.
You know what I look like, right?
But that doesn't mean I don't wanna see you. So, good afternoon, Mayor and members of council. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present the following resolution. 911 services allow callers to dial a standard nationwide number to reach emergency services. The calls are specifically routed to the nearest public safety answering point or PSAP. through a standalone network. Each PSAP incurs monthly fees for uninterrupted service and continued equipment maintenance and replacement and software updates. In my role as the Cochise County 911 System Administrator, we have secured a grant in the amount of $523,623. This funding has been allocated to the Cochise 911 system by the Arizona Department of Administration's State 911 Program Office. It is intended to cover the costs associated with monthly fees, equipment maintenance, replacement, and software updates for each PSAP in Cochise County. And this award covers the period from fiscal year July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023.
Questions? Discussion?
I just wish they'd make it more than a year.
That would be nice.
To endure this every year.
Well, we need,
But that's the benefit of it, though, for 1 year. We get to
we
hear
need to get
from
the
you.
legislature to do what they do in Texas, is do a 2-year budget.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, then that would help.
Yes.
If I can make one more pitch, because this is a practice session, if you guys can help the state increase the 911 state legislation, the tax, the 911 excise tax.
You need
We
to-
are the lowest in the country.
Yeah, you need
in
to come
Arizona.
talk to me about that issue, and I'll talk to the League of Cities, okay?
Awesome. Thank you very much for your
All
time,
right,
everyone.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then, last up on this item is item number 6, another bond, and it's gonna be Mr. Felix.
Mayor, members of council, as we discussed in the last, or 2 work sessions ago, about the Schneider project. What we're looking at is authorization to go out to market. You've specified the terms of not more than 20 years, interest rate not more than 5%, and not more than $25 million. That allows Chuck, the mayor, and myself to enter into either a negotiated sale, public placement, public issuance, whatever works best for the total cost of the city, given these parameters, and we can then act on it right away without having to wait, come back to the council to have it voted on, because I can tell you, our financial advisor 2 weeks ago was doing a bond issue, and that morning the market moved 5 basis points. So that pushed back some timing on it as well. So the market is moving very quickly. Our rates are going up. They will go up with the feds probably looking at their next meeting to raise the Fed funds rate as well. We'll do whatever is best for the city, for the total cost and the total interest cost. But the range will depend on a private placement is done a little differently than a public sale with the coupon rates and the interest rates and things like that. So this gives us the flexibility to do whatever's the best for this city overall. Be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Questions? Okay. Good hunting.
Thanks.
All right. That concludes the meeting with the exception of the call of the public and the comments and requests of the council and adjournment. So we'll next move on to item B on today's agenda, 2B, the budget. And we've got, there she is.
Mayor, members of council, so the city currently has 22 funds, with the general fund being the largest. Currently, the general fund is balanced at this time, and we're working through balancing the remaining funds. So as such, you'll be receiving a lot of detail on the entire budget. They'll be included in the tentative budget book, and you'll receive your copy on Friday before Memorial Day. So about a week after that, or about a week and a half after that, we have our one-on-one meetings scheduled, and then about a week after that are the special budget work sessions. So today, we're going to give you an update on where we are at this time. So to begin, we'll discuss and review the current projections on the general fund revenue streams, and then we'll also discuss the capital improvements and maintenance items that have made it so far. So the general fund proposed for next year is $50,502,854, which is about $3.7 million above last year's adopted budget. So we see an overall increase in revenue at $3.7 million. The biggest of which you're going to see at the urban revenue sharing, the income tax. This is an artificial increase this year because of the lag in the tax filing. So we're seeing that catch up this year. And then also the corrected population numbers. So everything is hitting us at the same time, and then next year we'll see it level out. The ambulance fees increased $300,000 based on actuals, and then it included revenue for the new EMS substation. So we'll continue to monitor the TPT and keep an eye on it. As you know, there's a 2-month lag in when we receive that data. And so if we need to adjust those projections, we will as the incoming data come.
Okay, and Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'll just interject here, and David's here as well. We did receive the TPT revenues for March. Obviously, we're in the 2-month lag. And this is the first time we've seen a drop in revenue this year. So it brought our annual percentage increase from the 9.5 to 9 3/4 range to about 8.8%. So it was a fairly significant monthly drop. And as I've been saying, we've been anticipating that this would probably occur. And we need to monitor next month because it is just one data point. We're still confident in our sales tax projection for next year because we're bringing it off of last year's actuals. So we're in pretty good shape there. But we'll talk when we have the full budget book to you about potential contingencies if we continue to see a trend in that direction moving forward. But we're aware of it and we're trying to be prepared in the event that happens. But we finally did see that decrease with the last report.
And could I ask you to go back to the previous slide? Because I just want to make sure I got on your highlights down there. Transaction privilege tax is normally what we call a sales tax, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So when we get down, when we say sales tax increased, so that's $1.3 million over last year?
That's state shared sales.
State share.
State shared, so that's the state share. So that's the money we get back from the state. That's the state share of the transaction privilege tax.
Yes.
Okay. So sales tax and transition, we're mixing language, and it may get people confused like it did me. And the urban revenue sharing is of course the money we get back from the state on our income taxes.
Income tax, correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So these are the capital improvement and maintenance items that are still in the proposed budget. In IT, we have equipment that's over 20 years old, and so parts are no longer available. We plan to replace the PD and the fire's VHF networks for modern equipment so we can have better coverage. That's about $350,000. There is a grant available for that, so we are pursuing that one.
Obviously, that's the one that we need to have if we don't get a grant.
No, that was part of the grant funding that the sheriff was able to secure primarily for CCOM, and that was a request that he asked us to put in that, and we're very confident of being able to receive the grant funds for that, so that will not hit the general fund then.
PD auditorium and small EOC upgrade. So the equipment is at end of life. New equipment will support collaboration platforms like Zoom, Teams, and the WebEx. The same thing for the city manager's conference room, end of life, and will also support more video conferencing. $33,500 for the current archive server upgrade. So the current archive we have right now is end of life and 80% full. So this piece of equipment is used by all departments to archive documents for longer periods of time. So it'll help with the load production if we upgrade it. $13,200 is for a city-wide folding machine that's past end of life and no longer supported.
What is a folding
Thank you for
machine?
asking.
That's the obvious questions.
It's a machine that actually folds the bills.
But
So
for the billing process, where
Yes.
it'll fold the bills and put it
and
in the envelope.
invoices, not
Had a
not
guy
in the
that did
envelope,
that.
but just keep folding them.
Okay,
So
it just takes the bill and folds it up, moves it down the line, so the next process is stuff.
Yes.
I
Yes.
thought we had a guy that did that.
That's it. That sounds like a
I
good
think it
retiree
would-
job.
That's right. What
I
you
think it
doing
was
there?
extra
Fold it.
confusing since it's under IT. I was trying to think of how it would be an IT folding.
I believe
Okay.
IT is the department that kind of overruns
The billing.
the folding machine itself, not the billing part of it.
Yeah, like the
So.
computer, okay.
ACO, we have the carryover for the expansion design and the construction.
Did we, I'm sorry.
Is
Okay,
it?
Go ahead.
Bless you.
didn't we, last budget cycle, put 200? And this includes carryover. Okay, never mind. Okay. Sorry.
Fire department, we have $20,000 for one striker ambulance gurney. For facilities, we're remodeling the former dispatch area to turn it into an updated EOC. We have $45,000 budgeted for one additional restroom. Currently, there's only one for the fleet building. The next three items, the Cove stair replacement, City Hall exterior stair replacement, and the diving board stands replacement are for safety issues. $50,000 for the dive pool deck resurface, that is end of life, and $30,000 for UPS backup for City Hall.
Yeah, or sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hey, I was hoping maybe somewhere for facilities, we can find like 10 to 15,000 and maybe upgrade chairs in the chamber. Because they've been here over 15 years and you can look at the faces. I know they're uncomfortable, but
They're historic artifacts.
Actually, they are a historic artifact. They've been there long enough.
And
They've been there
15
forever.
15 years isn't half their age.
probably could get them for 5,000, just saying.
We'll make a note of that.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Are the diving board stands, are they carryover too? I thought we,
I didn't think none of us
did we pay for that before? Or did we
I
budget?
don't believe that was.
Did we place diving board?
Those are actually for the
Something.
diving boards themselves.
Or itself, not the stand.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah, some of it, yeah.
All these parts to diving boards, I don't know. Okay, thanks.
Light is for parks. OYCC pickleball court resurface has not been resurfaced for 4 years. The push-button lights for the skate park, currently the lights are preset using a software, so this will give us the option of not using energy when we don't need to, or if there's an event, they can activate the lights if they need to without having to go through certain procedures. So Chaparral Playground canopy is damaged. This is set for replacement. Grass infield at Coldfield is better utilization of the field for baseball. Country Club Playground, there's 2 canopies that are damaged. Eddie Sear Park tot turf replacement is for the small and the large tot turfs. Len Roberts Park, small and large tot turf replacement. ADA water fountains for Veterans Memorial Park, Tompkins, and Len Roberts. So right now we have outdated water fountains. So this will replace them with ADA accessible water bottle fountains. And also it's touchless, so better for germs.
I want to talk a little bit about the tot turf repair. When I go to parks and when I talk to mothers, younger mothers particularly, they're always concerned that there's always an area under the swing or an area at the end of the slide, and there's always it seems like that stuff just doesn't hold up. Is there any way we can have, rather than making a big item, is there any way that our folks can have the ability to patch and repair those high-use areas on a regular basis rather than having to wait for a
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
a major allotment of money?
We are looking at how to focus in on the most high trafficked areas for the use of tot turf and our larger
And these are generally
playground features,
under the playground areas or the swings, those kind of areas.
because we can also utilize sand in place of tot turf in some areas, and you'll start seeing that some of our replacement is just digging down and putting sand in some areas, because it is also an acceptable cushion, if you will, for falls or doing those really cool flips off the swings.
And so, and it's much easier for us to maintain that way is bring in more sand. Tot turf is obviously an excellent surface for playgrounds, but we do recognize that it doesn't need to be everywhere, and we're taking that into advisement.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
We have $6,500 budgeted for the Soldier Creek Playground umbrella canopy replacement. $15,000 for the ADA water fountains. The same fountains were going to be replaced at the 3 sports fields. $9,000 for Summit Park tot turf repair. $13,000 for Tompkins Park canopy replacement. $20,000 for Tompkins Park tot turf. That's hard to say back to back. Sorry. Small and large. And $75,000 for the Veterans Park Ramada replacement. So the Ramada 3 damaged, it is damaged, and parts are no longer available to repair it. So,
What kind of, I'm just curious, what happened to it? Like,
wind.
kind of damage the wind?
Yeah, we had that big storm. Go ahead, Laura.
Thank you, Councilmember Humphrey. It was during our big windstorms over the past few months, and it was literally lifting and slamming back down on it. So that is why it has been removed for safety. We had a fence around it. We've taken that down and just removed the top. So it looks kind of bad right now, but we just need to replace it. It's been there a long time. So,
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
fleet tire carousel. There's currently a lack of workspace, and it's encroaching on the exit. This will help free up workers having to also get tires from an above area. The fleet outside lift currently is 20 years old and not usable, so the new one will reduce labor and vehicle downtime. So we are currently working on the HERF fund, but this is what we have so far listed is $2.5 million budgeted for North Garden improvements, $1.5 in annual street maintenance, as well as you're going to see the Avenue to Squale extension with culvert, Garden Avenue design, and Charleston rebuild as carryovers.
Okay. Jen, just hold up a second here before we go further. In the general fund, you noticed a lot of projects and items that are now there, and I just wanted to make a strategic point about what we're trying to do with the budget this year, since finances are allowing us to do that. When we were in the recession, if you'll recall, Mr. Mayor and probably Mayor Pro Tem Gray were the ones here during that time. We had a problem with keeping up with capital items in the general fund and had to start moving items to the capital improvements fund that would normally be maintenance or equipment items. This year, we're attempting to move all those items back to the general fund from the capital improvements fund, with the obvious impact being that the capital improvements fund will be able to support larger projects going forward. It also gives us a cushion in the event that we have revenue issues in the future, of being able to migrate things back to the capital improvements fund if we need to. But we felt this year was a good year to attempt to do this in order to give the council more flexibility going forward. So hopefully we'll be able to maintain that posture in the future. But it's a rather significant, it's like a $6 million item that we're moving over from one fund to the other. And the general fund used to support these things in years past. So we're attempting to do that this fiscal year.
I think Greg had a question first.
Yes, on the North Garden improvements, is there any grant money, or is this all general fund money?
There's probably 2 or 3 grants that we're going after right now, Councilman Johnson, but we're also budgeting for it in HERF and have the ability to move forward with the project even if we don't get the grants.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it, and one of the things that we hear as council persons here is the condition of our streets. And I know that, I'd like to see maybe 500,000 be removed from the North Garden improvements and thrown into the annual street maintenance so we can get ahead of this thing. Because I know that, we've talked about this in previous work sessions about the conditions of some streets. And I think It's my idea because I hear it all the time. My street is falling apart, so.
Well, let me ask this question. How much money did we have in HERF last year? For street maintenance, annual maintenance? Was it 1.5 or was it 1 million?
1 million.
David, could you come up and then talk about the HERF?
I think we've already increased it.
It was 1.5.
It wasn't originally
Again.
Mayor and members of council, as you remember in the budgeting process, what we did because of the concerns on construction costs and what happened with the Fry Avenue project, we budgeted just basically the grant amount for Fry. We put in the budget 1.5 million for street maintenance with the intent of having $1 million planned, but that $500,000 to shift over to the Fry project depending on how bids came in at. The bids did come in high. We did go through them, and the bids for Avenida Cochise extension and the Charleston rebuild did come in above expected too, as well as the fact of the portion from Walmart was less than expected after the breakout was done. So we did have to move the $500,000 over to the Avenida Escuela extension and Charleston rebuild project.
So to answer my question, how much money was
Going forward,
proposed
Dave, going forward.
last year for street maintenance?
$1 million was planned for specific
originally
street
planned.
maintenance by itself,
So
with another
the
2.5 for the
The point I
other.
was trying to make is, we've already added $500,000 over last year's, no matter what all the other ramifications were when we swap money around, and there may be an opportunity, if we do get some grants for the HERF money, to move some of that money out into streets. And I think that should be a priority. I think you wouldn't disagree with me.
No, I don't,
but
I would
I
just
think-
like to see that number bigger, that's all.
Well, I think we all would like to see it bigger. I just know how we do that and still meet the other obligations, because we're still working on
Budget all $3
Fry.
million, balance the fund.
We got phase one done. North Garden is the next thing we've committed to as a council. And then the third phase would be the extension all the way to Fifth Street, Fifth or Sixth, wherever it goes on Fry over the period of years. So that's kind of what we've committed to. If you want to extend the timelines on those other things, I think that's a discussion, but I think we have the possibility of being okay. Chuck, did you want to comment?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I do feel that we will be successful in getting some grant funds, and certainly, then we would inform you that that was the case, and I think we would be able to move more funds in the street maintenance. But this covers us in both eventualities.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question too. I'm going back to the 1.5. So in the capital projects or capital improvement / maintenance general fund, we allocate 1.5. But I thought in the capital improvement fund, we also allocated 1.5. Or is that what you're talking about, Chuck, where we moved this over?
No, in the capital improvements fund, what we've done in the past was we're allocating 1.5 towards a grant match for a different project.
Okay, thank you.
And actually, that's one of the challenges this year is with all the potential grants coming up with enough grant match.
Thank you, David.
Okay. Good. Okay. Thank you. Good discussion.
My last point was we are exploring a lot of grant opportunities in HERF, and that we'll be able to give you better detail for the tentative budget. So we'll have it all laid out for the tentative. General fund vehicles, right now, we are not financing any vehicles for the general fund. We have 2 ambulances at $650,000 total, $325 each. There are about 14 cars and trucks at $710,000, and then tractors, mowers, and equipment at $703,000. Mr. Mayor?
The 2 ambulances, are they for the new facility?
That's correct.
Okay, got it.
And, not to gloss over Jen's point, but it is an important one. Generally, we would take out financing for items such as this. Right now, we are not envisioning that, so you won't have the ongoing debt services associated with that. The downside is if we did finance it, otherwise that would free up more cash for other projects. But, this year we're making a determination to try to keep the debt levels down because we're doing the Schneider project.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I don't know why I can't see you on that side.
So,
Have it, I guess, huh?
the gators that we're getting in the capital improvement fund, are any of those
Gators now.
in the 703,000 here?
Yes,
Or is-
3 gators, about 2 club cars, a trailer, several mowers, 4 more mowers, 1 tractor.
Well, I didn't need to know all
Yep,
that.
And a partridge in a pear
And a
tree.
partridge.
Partridge in a pear tree, yes.
I'm glad you remembered all that.
That was very impressive.
That was.
Yeah.
I was just concerned about the
No,
gators.
but I did remember that one, yeah.
Man, I was gonna try
Anything
to
else?
trick you too. I didn't. You good.
Okay.
Future budget issues. So last presentation, we talked to you about a proposed 4% market, 2% step increase in July of 2022, and then a 2% market adjustment also in January of 2023. This will help get staff closer to 100% market value and also help with recruitment and retention. So we'll keep an eye on this market as it keeps fluctuating. Parks Master Plan, as you've seen with the capital improvement and maintenance list, that we have several items budgeted this year, about $285,000, and we're going to continue to put big ticket items in every year's budget. David's going to present a PSPRS at the next council work session. And we'll also continue to make street maintenance a priority. And then we're going to keep an eye on the economic downturn and keep our conservative forecasting.
Street maintenance, $1.5 million. When are we gonna know when are we gonna know from the engineers which streets are the priorities for the next budget year?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we already have a tentative list together. I'd be happy to share that with you. It's always contingent on available funding, and as Jen has noted, there's a lot more moving parts this year than there has been in years past. It's always our hope to do more if we can find a way to do it.
So we have a lot more information coming towards you. We have the tentative budget books that will come to you the Friday before Memorial Day. Our one-on-one council meetings, June 6th through 8th. 3 afternoons are scheduled for the budget work sessions, June 13th through 15th. You have your tentative budget vote, June 23rd. The final budget and property tax hearing, July 28th, and the property tax vote on August 11th.
Any questions? All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. And we next go to reports on recent trips, meetings, and future meetings. This is normally when we'd have the assistant city manager talk about what's coming up with the
I can help you a little bit.
yeah, well, you may have to do this today, Chuck, and let us know what's already on the schedule first.
Okay, well, the big thing is before your next work session, there will be an executive session scheduled, and we have a number of items now to discuss with you, one pertaining to real estate, one pertaining to intergovernmental agreement, and let's see, the other one dealt with
Court.
no, that was the intergovernmental
Okay.
agreement one.
Broadband.
Which one? Broadband proposal as well, which is also another contractual agreement. So those will be the 3 main items. And also a personnel item pertaining to the city attorney. So there'll be a number of items in executive session prior to the next work session.
When's that scheduled?
Do we have the time set yet?
1:30.
1:30. Okay.
Give you an hour and a half
24.
on the 24th,
Okay.
before the next work session.
Before the next work session. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I have so far.
Okay. So that's future meetings. Anybody been to meetings recently?
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Parks and Rec met last week. Just a reminder, this Saturday, 14 May, 0800, Soldier Creek Park Rock Movement. We're gonna have a lot of volunteers from the base. We're gonna have a lot of volunteers from the city. There's a lot of rocks evidently, so I keep putting out. 8 o'clock, this Saturday. Some other things going on. We locked down a time for our first public comment meeting, June 13th, from 5 to 7 p.m. at what's called Roadrunner right now. Is our tentative first meeting with the public. We're putting things out, letting them know so we can hear feedback from them. Some other things that are happening. The committee is working on getting some changes to our procedures for the parks naming convention, what the names mean, what our parks, different names for our parks, and for the actual dog park, what can and can't happen in it. So they're going through that now. Hopefully they'll have some recommendations for us. And by hopefully next month, we'll have a recommendation for council to rename the tennis courts to the Steve Bukowski tennis courts. So, made Rachel smile. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. That was our meeting.
Is anybody working on unmanned aerial systems and launch pads?
It's on our agenda, but it keeps being tabled, but I can have them push it.
I'd like to know
talk
why.
about more.
If there's a reason that it's being tabled, I'd just kind of like to know why.
But we'll find out and let you know.
Ma'am,
So I was smiling because that was Malachi's tennis coach when he was a child. So that made me smile. But Greg already mentioned it, but Friday we're having a joint agency work session on the Theater Drive corridor study. And that's that kind of initial kickoff brainstorming meeting about what we want to see happen in that area.
hopefully there'll be a county member represented, active.
Yeah, so it'll be the
since
county, Wachuca, well,
since
no,
it's in the county.
not Wachuca City, sorry, the county and the city, both the TAC members and the board members,
Anybody else?
and ADOT, sorry.
Anybody else?
Can I go back to like
Sure.
the Sorry, I looked at the annual street maintenance in our last budget. It said 1,743,000. So where? Because I thought it was higher than a million.
Well,
We're not.
yeah, and it was, and that's what David was talking about, because we had overages in our bids for Avenida, Escuela, and Fry. We had to move some of that money over to cover those projects,
Okay.
and that's how we ended up around $1 million instead.
Projected more and spent less.
Okay. But we're still not projecting more than we did project. Is what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
yeah.
Like, it wasn't at $1 million. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hopefully, we won't have to do that this year.
Okay. So that's trips, meetings, future meetings. I guess I jumped ahead of the gun a little bit on the discussion items with the council request there, Chuck. Sorry about that. Anything else? All right, then seeing nothing else, I guess we'll say it for Thursday. Meeting is adjourned.